Hi, I'm Ger Shortle. I work with Teagasc down in Johnstown Castle, and I manage the agricultural catchments program. We're evaluating the impact of the measures that farmers implement to improve water quality. Okay, well, what I talked about today was the fact that we have strong evidence over the last 5 to 10 years that there are signs of improvements in water quality. By all means, there's still work to be done, but we've got good indicators in both groundwater and surface water that levels of nitrate and phosphorus are declining rather than increasing. So we are starting to arrest the difficulties with water quality and maybe make some improvements. But those are very hard to pick up because there's long lags between implementation of measures which farmers are doing and actual being able to pick those up in the environment. So in our study we look at 6 intensively farmed catchments, and we're trying to discern the changes that are happening at farm level right down to where the water quality is improving. And we have a number of indicators at farm level of improvements. Levels of nutrient use efficiency are improving, so farmers are getting more from less nutrient. They're also targeting the nutrients better at where they're needed, so we're getting a change in the risky soils. The index 4 soils are starting to decline, especially in our Cork site in Timoleague. We've got a decline in index 4s and an increase in index 3s, which is good for farming and good for the environment. There's certainly, the job isn't done yet, but we're moving in the right direction. At the same time as that, we're getting the same productivity out of the farms as was there before the changes in the regulations. So the farmers are maintaining productivity while decreasing the inputs into the system. Also then, on the environmental side, as I say, there's some early indicators of changes in water quality, but they're not really significant enough yet to say definitively that it's a permanent change. And what overwhelms all the activities of all the farmers would be the weather conditions. So you'll find that in particularly wet years, your losses start to spike, and it's more to do with the driver, which is the water and the rainfall. So you know, it's very hard to discern a pattern when you've got these heavy rainfall events in some years and not so much in others. So we need a long-term data set to really see what the long-term changes are. And I suppose looking forward then to where farmers are going, I think step 1 would be to implement as fully as possible the existing measures, not just the measures in GAP, but also the greening measures and the good agricultural and environmental condition measures and the new GLOS scheme which is coming. All those measures combined have an effect on improving water quality. They give several benefits. You get a win-win or a win-win-win, in fact, because they'll give you an economic return, should improve water quality, and they also maybe mitigate gaseous emissions from agriculture. So all those measures have to be implemented, as well as just good straightforward housekeeping around the farmyard and keeping the farmyard tidy and clean and reducing the risk of losses from the farmyard. When all that's done and we've moved on possibly a generation down the road or several years down the road, we certainly have scope to introduce maybe some new measures where they're needed. In their specific highly risky sites, we may need to go 1 or 2 steps further. And I think what that really needs then is to really focus farmers' attention on where the issues are. That might be supporting farmers to make better decisions in terms of where to put the nutrients, when to put them out, when conditions are right, so they can plan and maybe be more accurate in their application and match the crop requirement better. And there's strong evidence there that most of the time farmers make good decisions, but sometimes they get it wrong because they're only human and the weather conditions are so unpredictable. We're not getting as good a result there maybe as we could in terms of timing and so on. And then there's also some work that we've done looking at, say, drainage ditches in farms, where drainage ditches can actually be a mitigation measure on their own. They exist on the farm. There's no expense required to provide new ditches. We're talking about using existing drainage ditches as essentially big long linear traps which trap the sediment. And if you manage those properly, you can actually capture that sediment, return it back to the farmland where it'll do you some good and save it from getting into the water. And at the moment, farmers are already doing maintenance on drainage ditches. It's just a matter of changing and tweaking the way they're doing it. Another area that gives hope for a lot of improvement would be to identify the critical source areas on the farm. And we've done a lot of work. We've a PhD student working on it at the moment to come up with an automated GIS-based system where you'd use electronic mapping to use layers and layers of information and build up a picture of risk on the farm or in the catchment. And what that does is it helps you to focus on that few percent of the landscape which is delivering most of the nutrient. And it's a lot easier for the farmer to tackle that few percent than to be thinking about the whole area that he's managing. So if you can focus your attention on that few percent of the landscape, you should be able to minimize the risk to the water without having any serious impact on productivity of the farm. So in summary, I think it's true to say that we've made progress in terms of water quality. There's certainly evidence emerging from various sources that there's a change afoot. We're only at the start of that process, so we're only picking up the changes really at farm level. They haven't trickled down right down to the ecology yet, but they will, and in time, as long as we keep implementing those measures as well as we can and improve our management on the farm, we should get an economic benefit as well as an environmental one. And perhaps then down the road, when we've done all we can with our existing knowledge and measures, we should look at possibly focusing some new measures on particularly risky parts of the landscape. I think most farmers are primarily concerned with making sure that they stay in business, so they're very focused on economic benefits of any management practices. I don't think we should discount the fact that farmers live in this environment, they drink the water. As one farmer said to us, he said, "It's my kids that are drinking the water out of my well. I'm pretty damn sure I want that water to be of good quality." So you wouldn't want to discount the fact that farmers live in this environment. It's their home, it's where their kids are going to have their homes, and they do want water quality. But they have to bear in mind the economic realities of life, and if a measure can be shown to be economically as well as environmentally beneficial, it's a lot easier sell to a farmer.